really fortunate to have with us today Doug Loon, who is the president of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. Just a little bit about Doug. He is pretty new. He started in September of 2015 with the Minnesota Chamber. Prior to that, he spent 20 years at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, 17 of those years in Minnesota. He was the vice president for regional affairs and advocacy, and he managed the 7 regional offices that provide political and grassroots outreach across the nation. So obviously he has a lot of good experience with how to do advocacy and working on these issues. Previous to that, he served as Director of Congressional and Public Affairs at the U.S. Chamber headquarters in Washington, D.C. And there he served as one of the organization's chief lobbyists before Congress on issues critical to the American business community. So we're looking forward to working with the business community and the Minnesota Chamber during the next legislative session. So please join me in welcoming Doug Loon.
It is great to be with you. It's great to be out of St. Paul for a little bit. I must say, like all of you, I don't know how late you were up last night, but Bentley and I were up pretty late. Where's Bentley, by the way? There he's back there. Bentley, you should all know, is our guy on transportation and healthcare, chief lobbyist for those weighty issues at the Minnesota Chamber. We work side by side on a daily basis on a host of things. We were up very late last night. So just a little bit on the elections, but before I get to that, as Margaret graciously mentioned in my bio, I spent quite a few years with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and then a number of years working on Capitol Hill. And during that entire service, I worked on transportation issues. And so I know some of this from the federal level quite a bit, and it directly relates to some of the issues and challenges that we face here in the state on the same issues. At the Minnesota Chamber, we know firsthand how important transportation investment is, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But the elections are on our minds, right? What does the new landscape look like? Last night's election, I think one person wrote me a note and said, wow, breathtaking is another one. Fundamentally, I think the people of Minnesota and the people of the country voted for change. We knew we were going to have a new president, so we were going to get some change, right? I guess we didn't realize how significant this is and the effect also on Minnesota. But if you look down the ticket, our congressional delegation is largely the same. We have one retirement, so we have some change there. But the rest of the delegation is in place. We know that our governor is in place, right? So there's change, but you got to get down a little bit. The flip in the Senate is very significant and historic, but it's very narrow. By the way, there's 2 recounts, so don't start counting everything yet. We have to get through those, but they're not all that narrow. So I would actually predict that those wins will hold. The Republicans will take control of the Senate. We don't know who the leader is, so put a big question mark on that question, because that will frame, right, how they operate in the Senate. But the majority that the GOP will hold is very narrow. And also, you know that the representing all sectors of the business community, all corners of the state, look at fundamentally what are the pillars, if you will, that make up our state's business economy. So things like taxation, regulations, workforce are all measured in this report called our business benchmarks. And we're going to do this every year on an annual basis. And we pull data from the federal government, the state, and also trusted third-party groups that do research and compare states, okay? And this is important because one of those key pillars, one of those 6, is infrastructure. And we know that we have been investing heavily. There's been an increase, a consistent increase in investment since the 06 and 08 debates on transportation, of which we all stood together and fought for and passed a bill. We want to repeat that effort, right? That coalition going forward into this next round. But interestingly in there, we do very well on bridges because we know we had a big one collapse.